Okay guys, so I'm out on the water today. It is what, January the 3rd, 2021, and I have the Doyo Liger / LEWS Custom Light, and we're gonna get a casting impression of this reel, and we're gonna do it against Shimano's Aldebaran 30 MGL. I have both of these reels mounted on a 6'8" medium powered rods with moderate fast actions. The Liger is sitting on a Shimano Bantam, while the Aldebaran is sitting on a Megabass Hyuga. And I'm going to say that the Hyuga is probably not as, it's not as stiff as the Bantam, but those are the two rods that I had that were most evenly matched. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good little comparison here. And I'm running 10-pound fluorocarbon on both reels, and since it's jerkbait season, we're going to be throwing jerkbaits. Nothing heavier than 3/8 of an ounce, but nothing lighter than 1/8 of an ounce. And I also have some Ned rigs as well. All right, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the Aldebaran and just cast it around and get a good feel and get myself reacquainted with this reel, because I haven't casted it in a while. And then we're going to switch up to the Liger and do the same, and I'm going to take notes and see if I can see any differences between the two. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start off with a good old Lucky Craft Pointer 78. It's about 3/8 of an ounce. Got the Aldebaran set up with the spool tension set to just minimize side-to-side play. All 4 brakes on inside to start with. I'm going to start off with the external dial all the way up to 6, just so I can let this line settle before I start backing things off. Here we go. Okay guys, so I actually switched up jerk baits to this one right here because the color is better, and this is actually a suspending model while the other one was a sinking model. And I got the Aldebaran dialed in. That means I got 2 brakes on inside, 2 brakes off. External dial is set to almost 5, so like 4.75. And let me show you what it can do. And once again, we're going to use that dock extension there as a reference. So I probably shot 5 foot past that dock extension there. So I'm going a good 40 plus yards on this cast. And this Aldebaran, at least the old Aldebaran 50, was probably my favorite jerkbait reel for the fact that it could cast these relatively lighter weight jerkbaits like the 78 super far. And of course the reel is super lightweight and palmable, which makes twitching that jerkbait all day long very easy to do. All right, a couple more casts. Such a free casting reel. All right, one more. Ooh, had an overrun there, and I think I know why, because I saw the lure and it was helicoptering through the air, and that could definitely cause a backlash, especially when you're on the limit of the brakes. All right, one more cast. I'm going to turn the brake up a little bit to 5 on the external dial. And that seemed to cure the overrun. And once again, we're getting probably 40 plus yards on that cast. Now Shimano Japan may very well come out with an all-new Aldebaran at this year's online Japanese fishing shows. We never know, but it's definitely got some big shoes to fill replacing this model right here. Okay, let's switch up to the Liger 30. All right guys, we got our Doyo Liger / LEWS Custom Light. We're gonna set this reel up to just minimize the side-to-side play, just like with the Aldebaran. All right, I think that's good. Pretty fast fall. Now of course with the Liger, we have no internal brakes to adjust. Everything is on the outside, and we're going to start off of course in the maximum position because I don't want to blow this spool up. And let's start casting. All right, I felt a little bit of vibration there during the cast. A couple more on max brake. Let's do some overhead. I think I might have accidentally tightened the spool tension there. I heard some clicking. Gonna have to reset that. There we go. So if I didn't hear that clicking, if the spool tension didn't have a clicker, I wouldn't have known that I accidentally moved it. But it's actually pretty easy to move. Not sure if that's all the models or just this one, but immediately I can feel one advantage for the Liger versus the Aldebaran, and that is due to the, I guess, the frame material. Now with the Aldebaran, since it's magnesium and metal, the frame stays cold, and it's about low 40s right now. Now with this Liger, the frame immediately warms up and it stays warm. I can definitely notice that coming from one to the other. Okay, let's start backing these brakes down. I'm gonna do it 3 at a time. Right distance didn't seem to improve that much. And once again, this is a 30mm spool. Let's do 3 more clicks. Wind is starting to kick up. Okay, backing the brakes down 3 clicks. Didn't really appear to give us much more distance either. Probably looking at 30 yards. Go down 3 more. So we're on 7. Spool is controlled, but distance didn't really go up that much. Okay, let's go down 3 more clicks. So we're on, it looks like 5. All right, there we go. We're almost reaching that dock extension, and the spool is still very, very controlled. Let's go down 2 more clicks. Okay, so on that cast, I saw some fluffing, and the distance was not quite as good as the Aldebaran, but we are having some wind kick up. And let's resume again, and we got the external brakes set to, it looks like in between 5 and 4. Now the brake dial goes up to the number 10, but there are half steps in between. But it looks like the wind has kind of died down. Now let's see what kind of distance this Liger 30 can get. So it looks like on that cast I was about 3 or 4 feet short of the dock. Spool was still controlled, so I think I can go down lower. I'm gonna go down 2 clicks. That means we're on, looks like 3. All right, here we go. All right, I blew the spool up, but the cast landed a couple of feet short of the dock. Oh, this looks bad too. This looks bad. Let me see if I can pick this out. Okay, so luckily I was able to pick that backlash out, and we're gonna go up 1 click. Hopefully that'll sort out that blow up. I don't think so, but we'll see. Here we go. All right, there we go. So I landed about probably a foot or 2 past that dock extension. Now, I did feel a slight backwind, could have helped, but we're gonna try that again. Now the thumb bar on the Liger, since it is chrome plated, it is very slick, and that can, you know, throw your cast off. At least for me it can. But here we go. All right, I was afraid I was gonna hit that dock on that cast, so I stopped it short with my thumb. Let's try again. Okay, so it landed about even with that dock. Hopefully you guys can see that. So ultimately with this lure, this weight lure, the Liger is gonna fall about, I don't know, about 5 foot short of the Aldebaran. And I'm not surprised, because with these long casting lures, the smaller spools like the one on this Liger are definitely going to lag behind. It's gonna have to work a lot harder to achieve the same distance as some of the bigger spooled reels. All right, one more cast. Okay, so that landed about a foot past the dock. So I think we found the optimal brake setting, but I'm gonna go down one more click because the wind seemed to have died down. That might have been the factor that caused that blow up earlier. All right, here we go. Okay, so on that cast, we were definitely matching the distance on the Aldebaran, but the spool was very squirrely. As you can see, I had an overrun, but yeah, under optimal conditions, it looks like the casting between these two is very close, at least for this weight of a lure. But let me show you guys something. Now, when those guys were mounting their boats, I was just casting around, and I could definitely see where these very small, lightweight spools excel. I was casting around this pontoon boat here, and it's very easy to get these pinpoint accurate casts, especially with these centrifugal brakes that just give you such a free casting experience. Casting around these boats here, and just these short to medium range casts, they are very easy with this Doyo Liger 30. Look at that, I'm just aiming for the corner of that pontoon boat, hitting it with no problem. A lot of confidence in where I can put these casts. So now we're going to switch up to a lighter lure. All right guys, so we're at a new spot and we're gonna change up to a new lure. Well, actually just a smaller version of the previous lure, and that's gonna be the Lucky Craft Pointer 65. So this weighs about 5 grams. So probably about half the weight of the Pointer 78 that we were throwing earlier. So that's gonna be a drastic change, dropping the lure weight in half. And maybe the Doyo Liger and LEWS Custom Light, with its smaller and significantly lighter spool, will show us something with these lighter lures. Now, these rods that I'm using are not rated to lures down this low, and this line that I'm using, the 10-pound fluoro, is definitely not something I would normally use for a lure this light. I probably use 6-pound or 8-pound tops, but yeah, I gotta roll with what I got. Okay, so with the Aldebaran, I think I'm gonna have to turn these brakes up, probably all 4 inside, or I risk exploding the spool. And luckily for me, the sun has come out and it's kind of warmed things up. But I was definitely feeling the cold casting around this Aldebaran at the previous spot. And let me turn this external dial to 6. And let's start casting. All right, so that went up there probably like 20 yards. So the brakes are definitely turned up too high. So let's go down to, I guess, 5. So that's a little bit better. So what I'm gonna do is, off camera, I'm gonna find the optimal setting for this Aldebaran and show you guys the results. But hopefully this new color, Pointer 65, will get me some bites. All right guys, so I found the optimal setting for this lure, and surprisingly it's about the same as the heavier 78. It's 2 brakes on inside and about 4.5, maybe 5 on the external dial. And let me show you what this Aldebaran can do. So that's going out there probably close to 90 feet, close to 30 yards. I'm seeing activity here. Makes me want to stop filming this video and start doing some real fishing. But we got to test out this Liger. All right, a few more casts. I'm going to turn this up to 5 on the external dial. Seeing some overrun on the tail end of the cast there, that going up to maybe 5.5 ought to solve on the external dial. And let's go ahead and do that. Yep, solve the issue there. Still getting probably close to 30 yards on the cast. So not too bad considering that the rod and the line are definitely not suited for this light of a lure. All right, one more cast. So the Aldebaran 30 definitely could dip into some upper end bait finesse with a lighter rod and line setup, no doubt. Now I've always wanted to test that, but unfortunately I just don't have the time. All right, time for the Liger. All right, so I got the Doyo Liger with the new Pointer 65 in this new color, and I am going to turn the brakes to, let's say, 7. No need to go all the way to maximum. Okay, here we go. Now right there you can hear the brakes are very, very quiet, but I can definitely feel some vibration coming through the frame. Doesn't seem to cast quite as smooth as Shimano's SVS Infinity. But I'm already getting close to that Aldebaran's distance. All right, let's back the brakes down to, let's go down 3 clicks. So that should be on 5. Now, unfortunately, the little notch on this brake dial doesn't line up precisely with the numbers, so that's going to be either 5 or 5.5. Now, also keep in mind, this rod is stiffer than that Megabass. All right, so we're probably reaching very close to what the Aldebaran was doing, if not around the same distance. Let's go down 1 click. Maybe the Aldebaran was a few feet longer, probably less than 5 foot longer. I have to review the footage when I get home. Let's go down 2 clicks. All right, so a sidearm cast, netted about the same distance. Starting to hear those brakes now. All right, there we go. So we're definitely getting close to 30 yards now with this 3/16 ounce lure. And the spool still very controlled. Makes me think I can go even lower. So that's what I'm gonna do. Let's go down 1 more click. Oh, damn. All right, so going down 1 click seemed to be 1 too many, and we have another pretty bad blow up. Hopefully I can pick this out. Okay, right there the brakes were set to, it looks like 3. I'm gonna do 1 more cast on this setting, but we're gonna do a sidearm. All right, so on sidearm, it seemed to behave perfectly fine, and I think we are definitely reaching about the same distance as that Aldebaran. So overhead, maybe too much spool speed with an overhead cast, but sidearm looked like it handled it no problem. Let's try 1 more overhead cast. Yep, I had to thumb that one during the cast to keep it from completely exploding. But yeah, it looks like the Liger 30 is definitely matching the Aldebaran with this lighter lure. With the heavier lure, I would say that with that heavier jerkbait, I would say the advantage went to the Aldebaran slightly, because while ultimately it looked like the Liger could match the distance of the Aldebaran on a very perfect cast, the Aldebaran seemed to hit those longer distances easier and definitely more consistently than the Liger. And there I just blew the spool up, so I'm definitely on the limit of these brakes. But I'm very surprised that I could go this low to begin with such a light lure. Okay, we're gonna go up to clicks. Just so we can solve any kind of overrun issue. Oh, I see a blow up there. Could be just shad or skipjack. I don't think the bass are too active in this cove. I think everyone is having a tough time catching bass. But yeah, that Lucky Craft pointer, I have a pretty heavy snap swivel. If it wasn't for that snap swivel, this thing would suspend perfectly. This is why it's my favorite jerk bait. All right, whatever that was, didn't want this, but we'll do a few more casts. But yeah, once again, this frame on this Liger heats up very quick and it stays warm. And that is definitely a plus in the wintertime. That's something I do remember with composite framed reels. And it's one of the reasons why I fished the CASITAS exclusively in the wintertime. And it palms comfortably. This is how I palm right here. But for those of you who palm like this would be a really, really comfortable reel. But of course, this thing being around 5 ounces, it's so lightweight that working this jerkbait is pretty effortless. So now I'm gonna tie on, I guess, a relatively light, soft plastic, and we're gonna check out the pitching ability of this Liger 30 versus the Aldebaran. All right, guys, so the bait we're gonna pitch is a 4-inch Yamamoto Senko, and it's got a #1 wide gap hook on it, and the total lure weight on the scale weighed just over 1/4 ounce, about 7.5, 7.4 grams, somewhere around that area. But this should be a good test of the finesse pitching capabilities of this reel as well as the Doyo Liger. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just turn all 4 brakes on for the Aldebaran. Well, actually, I'm gonna leave 2 brakes on, 2 brakes off, but I'm gonna jack the external dial up to 6. And we'll see how that works out. Gonna pitch into this little area. All right, so far no problem. Feels over braked actually. All right, with the higher trajectory pitch, I am getting more distance. Let me see if I can actually go down to 1 on these brakes. That will be something. So we're going down to 1 on the Aldebaran, and I'm gonna find the optimal pitching brake setting and get back to you and show you the results. Okay, so I got the brakes on the Aldebaran set to 2 on inside, 6 on the external dial. I was actually able to do a few pitches with 1 on inside, but when the wind kicked up, it was a mess. So I'm sticking with 2, and I am trying to do relatively low trajectory pitches here. You know, I'm not trying to lob out pitches just to make it go farther. I'm trying to do low trajectory where the Senko is just barely above the water during the pitch. At least I'm going to try, but this is the result. I'm thinking 30 feet on that, if that, so probably approaching 10 yards. I actually thought it would do better, but once again, this is a 1/4 ounce weightless plastic, so there's no jig head to help with the pitching. But yeah, around 30 foot tops. Of course I can get it out there farther if I just kind of do this, you know, do a rainbow pitch, but pitching is supposed to be a finesse presentation, kind of like a quieter entry. But yeah, this is what the Aldebaran can do with this roughly 1/4 ounce 4-inch Senko. All right, let's get to the Doyo Liger / LEWS Custom Light before the sun goes down. All right, here we go. Liger 30 with 4-inch Senko, and once again, no internal brakes to adjust. It's all on the outside. We're gonna leave the brakes as they are. All right, right there, I can feel that the Liger seems to pitch freer. The spool on this reel seems to spin up faster on these pitches versus the Aldebaran, and the spool control is perfect. Looks like we are getting a couple of feet farther as well. Let's go down 2 clicks. Oh yeah, I can definitely feel the spool spinning as I'm pitching this 4-inch Senko. And that could be just the frame being, you know, that fancy graphite. But let's go down to number 2 on the brakes. So we're getting to the very lowest setting of the brakes, probably only a few clicks away, but spool control still perfect. And it definitely looks like we're getting probably a couple of feet more than that Aldebaran. It just seems to pitch a lot freer than the Aldebaran. We're gonna go down even lower on the brakes, find the limit for this reel. All right, saw some fluff up there. This is definitely a fast spool when it comes to pitching baits around. So we're gonna go up 1 click. So that means we are on number 2 on the brake dial. Spool still controlled. I think we have found the best setting. Man, the humming and vibration you feel through the frame definitely gets you a little bit excited on this Doyo Liger. So distance, I don't know, maybe roughly equal between the two. Of course, it's going to depend from pitch to pitch. See, that was kind of a short pitch, but it was definitely lower trajectory. So yeah, the distance is all going to depend on your pitch trajectory. And if you really have to pitch, you know, a super long way, you might as well just do a roll cast. All right, so far I formulated my thoughts and mental notes on this Doyo Liger, and yeah, let's get back home and talk about it. Okay, so I'm back from the water, and let's go over my thoughts about these 2 reels and how they compared with each other. And once again, it's the Doyo Liger 30 versus the JDM Aldebaran MGL 30. So both of these reels have a 30 in their name. But before we do that, I just want to go over something real quick. And some of you guys may have caught this while watching the video, but I didn't catch it until I actually got home and started editing. But with the Aldebaran, somehow the line got wrapped around the rod blank between the reel and the first guide, and it definitely affected the performance a little bit. And I think I had mentioned it out on the water. I thought that the Aldebaran would do better, but I didn't catch that until I actually got home and started editing. But with that being said, it really doesn't change my opinion on the performance of these 2 reels, and I find them to be pretty even as far as overall performance. Now, it may have seemed like the Aldebaran was casting a little bit farther with that heavier jerkbait, but keep in mind that the Aldebaran was mounted on a rod that was a better caster than the rod that the Liger was mounted on, and that definitely could have given the Aldebaran a slight performance boost. But when it came to pitching and ease of pitching, I felt that the Liger actually had a tiny advantage as far as ease of pitching goes over the Aldebaran. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you guys a picture of both of these reel spools, empty and then filled with lime. And as you can see, the Liger has a considerable spool weight advantage when empty. Now both of these reels do have spool bearings, and the spool bearing on the Liger 30 is a little bit bigger than on the Aldebaran. But when filled up with line, it looks like the Aldebaran takes a slight advantage over the Liger by probably less than half a gram. And for those of you who are wondering and are wanting a more visual representation of what the line capacity on the Liger is, I've taken the fluorocarbon straight off the Liger and mounted it on my CURADO 70, and this is the capacity. So the spool capacity on the Liger is probably around the same as a SHIMANO 50 reel and slightly under a SHIMANO 70 reel if you like to spool your line all the way up to the rim. So let's finish up this video by going over my final initial thoughts of the Doyo Liger 30, and of course these will apply to the LEWS Custom LITE by default since they are the same reel. And my thoughts are that this is a very impressive, badass little reel. It is super lightweight, super comfortable to palm. It is very smooth, quiet, and refined, and that's in casting and retrieving. And yeah, it's very, very impressive. As you can see, it's pretty much got the same performance as the Aldebaran MGL, but costs hundreds of dollars less, which leads us to where this reel comes in. And I mean, where does it fit as far as the market goes? Now, this reel only has 4 other reels in its class that it's competing against, and that class is the super ultra lightweight finesse type bait casters, without going down into bait finesse. And the competition is going to be your $700 DAIWA STEEZ CT, which is actually a little bit heavier than this reel, but it's got the same size spool with a similar weight. And then you got your Abu Garcia REVO MJ Extreme 2, which is $500, and that's probably the lightest reel in its class. And then you have your $420 Shimano Aldebaran, and then you got your $370 REVO MGX. Now, this reel in the form of the LEWS Custom LITE is only $280. So I don't think you should sell off your Aldebarans to get a bunch of LEWS Custom LITEs or Doyo Ligers. But if you are looking to get into the super ultralight finesse type baitcaster scene and you don't have the money to spend for all those other expensive reels, then this is definitely going to be your choice. Alright guys, thanks a lot.